Hello, Jamie. Have we got you there?
Hello, hi, and welcome everybody. We've got a good turnout today. That's great.
Like always, we're ready to put on a big show for everyone. Thank you to all of those that have joined. Obviously, we've got people from the USA and the Americas, as well as your hometown or
Yeah,
part of the world, Jamie.
exactly. Yeah. So welcome everybody. And we've all heard good things because Luke did this session yesterday, and I've heard really good feedback. So, Luke, I'm going to kick back and just look forward to you to delivering a knockout presentation today. I think, buddy.
It's the first time for everything, right? Awesome. So I think the time is right to get into it, guys. Yeah, thanks for joining. Obviously, today's session is all about talking about features that are coming next year. We're getting quite close to Christmas, so there's been a lot of planning work happening internally at EdApp to think about 2022, and this has actually been happening for quite a few months. Those of you that are familiar with the technical or development world would know that great features don't take a week or two to build. A lot of the things that we'll be talking about today have been in planning for the most part of 2021, actually. So today we're going to talk about quite a few features that are coming up. Some of them are in early stages of development, and others are actually quite close to delivery. I think one or two of the things that we'll talk about today are actually slated for release in January, which is pretty exciting. Before I talk about this list, I just want to frame up, Jamie, if you can help me, just to talk about a few of the things that we released in 2021. I always find when organizations talk about their roadmap or upcoming features, it always brings the question, okay, so when are these coming out? Or can you stick to these timings? And I think what we've seen in 2021 so far in terms of feature releases is really testament to the way that we iterate on the EdApp product and we enhance it. I mean, just 2 weeks ago, we saw the release of the achievements feature, which is a feature by where you can create custom badges for efforts and performance in the application. There's also been the content library where you can access a full catalog of material on any topic to supplement your training. Jamie, has there been any other features in 2021 that have caught your attention?
Yeah, I mean, I think actually 2021 we've had quite a lot of feature releases. It's been a big year, but I'm not sure exactly when. Some of the kind of discussions and assignments elements dropped. More recently, we've had a makeover to our UX for our web-based learners for the non-app users. As an admin or author, you're going to see continual improvement in terms of the design aesthetic and the structure. So, like, I think what's really nice is we've got the great balance of kind of going back to established features and capabilities and seeking to improve those, even though they don't necessarily have the kind of glitz and glamour of releasing new features. But at the same time, Dave and the team are doing incredible work in terms of kind of bringing out new features and capabilities that aren't a distraction from what EdApp does. Rather they kind of improve and enhance, and the flow it's great. So yeah, like I'm
Awesome.
super excited about what we've got coming up, and delighted about what we've achieved this year so far.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well, let's talk about it then. So, this is a two-part series. Today, we're going to be talking about three features: credentials, observations, and group training. And then on the 1st of December, we're going to talk about the two remaining core topics or features. I'll just call out that if you haven't registered for the first yet, feel free to go to our edapp.com/webinars page and register there. You can get your spot for the next one. But today it's all about the first three. And we've just got a little call out in the top right of the screen to you to basically hit the chat or the Q&A and share your experience or your industries to talk about these features in context. We know a little bit about your industries, and a lot of those insights have kind of gone into the development of these features thus far. But if you have any insights or you want to give any feedback, we would love to hear it, because the best part about talking about features that are coming up is that not everything is set in stone. So if you give us some great insights today, we'll definitely take those back to the team and hopefully influence the development in the direction of your needs.
Yeah, just adding to that, I mean, I think like I have put, I'm hoping that people are paying more attention to what I say than to what I type, because I wrote the question in the chat asking people to share their industry, and we've had exactly 0 responses so far. So, but guys, if you can just add in your industry, it's just really helpful, because what we're going to do, like, you know, Luke and I are across multiple industries. Like, that's one of the great things about EdApp is we're super versatile, and we've got, you know, bags of different use cases. Yes, Sue can't write to everyone mechanical and electrical contracting. Yes, Ankit, Josh, that's what I love. Right, okay, people are listening. Yes, I'm right. So yeah, give us your use. Like, what we want to do is we just want to kind of give some context here, right? So just, you know, I love this. I can see lots of messages coming in here. And then what we're going to do is, as we work through here, we'll just try and pick out some of these and just share a bit about, you know, how that might work in your context. But as Luke said as well, like, you know, let's make this two-way. So if you've got thoughts and you think, oh, wow, you've got a light bulb moment, we haven't spoken about how it might be used, like, just jump in, share your thoughts. Like, we've got a Q&A there. I can see a couple of questions coming through. Loving all the interaction now. Well done, everyone, for listening to me. I'm proud of you. 20 people now, 21. We're doing really well. Okay, cool. So yeah, fine. Everyone's fired up now. So I'll just try and jump in where appropriate. But sorry to break.
No problem, Jamie. I can see you've been working on your good cop, bad cop routine. I'll be good cop today.
Hold on. Am I the bad cop? I'm surely I'm not.
I think you are.
No, I can't.
Let's get into the first one, credentials. So if you've seen some of our collateral, if you've seen the video previewing 2022, you would know that credentials is really our effort to allow you to bring external certificates, certifications, licenses, etc., into the EdApp experience. We know that EdApp is great for all types of training. But when it comes to certifications that you might need to get from a government body, for example, like a driver's license, of course, the delivery of that license and the creation of that certification can never happen in EdApp. So this is a way for you to bring those external pieces into EdApp so that for the learner, they can both house them on the device for easy access in case of needing to present it on site, for example. And conversely, for admins to be able to track the fact that these licenses are valid and also have visibility as to their expiring, which is very important in certain roles, particularly those in manual labor settings. Before we get into the prototype of the feature to actually show you the inner workings of how we're approaching credentials, we just wanted to sound out a few use cases from different industries. Obviously, you guys are the experts, so again, hit the chat and we can talk about insights from your feedback. But I'll kick things off here with use cases just to paint the picture as to what we can do with this functionality. So first up, construction and manufacturing. So if you're in the USA like me, and you're in the construction field or manufacturing field, you would probably need to have your workers certified with an OSHA 10 in order to participate in a safe work environment. That OSHA 10 certificate can come from many sources. It can actually come from EdApp if you have a certifying agent approve the training that you've developed in EdApp. But to date, we've seen many organizations pull that OSHA 10 certification elsewhere, and subsequently credentials would allow you to publish that certificate inside of the application. The second thing there, driver's license, as I said before, actually uploading your driver's license and valid and expiry date to the application. And then the third thing, when it comes to equipment operation, the easy go-to when you talk about equipment operation and licenses or certifications is forklift operation. I'm sure there's many, many others, aerial lifts, specific trenching equipment, all of the sorts of things that you guys do on site that I have no idea about. But those sorts of certifications that are delivered via face-to-face instruction do come with certifications, and subsequently they can be brought into the app. Jamie, have you got any insights from the chat?
I'm just like, I'll just read, like, it's made my hand hurt, right? I've written down so many different industries here. I haven't written this much since I was back at school, but we've got, mechanical and electrical engineering, we've got higher education, we've got languages, we've got manufacturing, warehouse and transportation, we've got restaurants, retail, we've got postal services, we've got wholesale operations, hospitality, wellness, fitness, sports, facilities, supply chain, mining, life sciences, architecture. We've got care and healthcare. We've got water. I like the utilities. So really broad range. But I mean, I think what's true about many of these is that you're working in regulated environments, right? Regulated environments where training will be one component, but you would expect in many cases to be taking people on who've reached some form of academic achievement or professional achievement, or have been certified to work in particular environments or with different people. And I think so, this is about being able to capture that information, that salient information, and not only that, where there are going to be expiries linked to those things that ultimately will inhibit or enable people to operate in your environments. The system will be able to track that, so it becomes like your early warning system, to help about the folks that you have going out there operating under your license, representing your business, and clearly you want them to be compliant with the law and trained to the appropriate level, whether that's through EdApp or through another party.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Jamie. We've got a few other industries here, but I think everyone hopefully gets the point of different applications for credentials. Let's get into the demo and talk it through a little bit further. So I'm just going to flip my screen over here to our prototype experience. Right now, we're showing you the user experience for admins for this particular feature. And this is an environment where our team put together the designs and the concepts for this particular functionality. This is a really good look at what you will see in the EdApp experience once the features are live. Credentials is actually one of the features that we're going to be talking about today that is quite a ways along in the development cycle, which is really awesome. So let's get into it. So when we're talking about credentials and how to set them up in the tool, we start off with the admin side of the platform. When you're creating a credential in EdApp, it's actually an action of requesting credentials from your audience. So let's get started here. So what the admin does is create a credential, like a license or a forklift certification or whatever it might be, giving it a title. And then importantly, the second thing is to determine who you're requesting it from. So if you're in a manufacturing setting, obviously, you've got different audiences doing different things with different specialties. So as such, you may not want to request the same credentials from everybody. So we'll press request here. And then that brings us to a view, a list of credentials that we've requested in the past. So these are the different things that for this particular account, they need their audience to supply to them. Obviously, we've been talking about the driver's license, which is number one on the list here. We've got a few other credentials that this particular admin is wanting to upload. Importantly, on the right-hand side is the validation of how many people have had this requested? And secondly, how many of those have actually responded, which is critical. Obviously, you can put these requests out there, but at the end of the day, like micro-learning, like training, in order for it to be valid, learners need to participate. And these sorts of metrics on the number of uploads is really critical to allow you to stay on top of that. So let's click into this driver's license here, and we can see a visual of those that have responded. So at the top in priority, we'll see those that have responded and subsequently their license has expired. Those that are close to expiry, those that are still valid, and those that are yet to respond. So really kind of concise picture here of who has done what. If we click on an individual that has expired, we will give you the ability to see all of their previous uploads and download the images that they've uploaded. You can also see when they uploaded those and when they expired. So a really transparent view of who, what, where, and when. The ability to download as well is something that we've heard is quite critical. Obviously, depending upon the industry that you're in, you may have auditors or third-party industry bodies come and knock on the door and ask for validation. And it's specifically when it comes to certificates, the ability to export this information and give it to a third party can be very, very important. So I'll just go ahead, Jamie.
I'm just going to say there was a question, and I just wanted to drop it now while we're kind of in that. Yeah,
go ahead.
It was from a lady called Tiffany Argent. Thanks, Tiffany. She was asking about how credentials comply with GDPR security. I mean, to answer that question, there are various ways that you can incorporate kind of data privacy agreement into EDAP. But clearly part of that will be around sharing documentation that supports your kind of career or professional requirements. So EDAP gives you the ability to have kind of standard terms that can be agreed to. One of my dogs just fell down the stairs there. Or you can have your own custom GDPR and data privacy. The balloon come down there as well. So yeah, Tiffany, we can talk about that, but definitely we fully comply with GDPR and the credentials capability will do too.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Jamie. Let's jump on to the learner side of things just to connect the dots here. So we've seen the admin configuration. We've seen how to request a credential. Let's look at what the learner does. So the screen that we're showing here is the learner profile. And from here, you can see different aspects of the profile, achievements, as I mentioned before. But if I click on credentials here, this takes us to the learner experience for credentials. And you can see for this individual, we have one request for a credential here, and it is the driver's license that was previously set up by the admin and assigned to this user. If I click through here, then the interaction demands that we upload the credential. So if you're a user on your phone, you would be basically snapping a photo of your ID, or if you're on your desktop, maybe you have it saved to desktop. Once you have that image, you upload it. Simple as that. You can upload multiple graphics if it requires, perhaps the front and the back. And then the next step is for the learner to set the expiry date. And this is both informing the user when it is to expire, and they will be notified when this date nears. And it is also informing the admin. So the admin can clearly have those sorts of dates on hand and make sure that they can stay on top of things. And I think that, again, this is kind of one of the biggest pain points of managing certifications on behalf of staff, because if you've got 1,000 staff, for example, and you're collecting their expiry dates of their licenses in a Google Doc, for example, very, very difficult to know whose licenses are valid and whose aren't. There's also an option here for permitting a license to not expire at all, where that is the requirement. So we'll save this license for the learner, and therefore it's there saved in the system, uploaded to the server, and now viewable to admins. And the next step is for the learner to be able to view this license easily and present it to peers. So again, just going back to a use case where someone might be on site, or they've just turned up to a new job, and the site manager requests to view licenses that will allow them to participate on site. This is where a learner can easily say, okay, well, I've got X, Y, and Z. You can see that it's valid. It's housed on the system for the kind of admins to be able to have a look. Let's rock and roll. Let's get going with today's work. Any thoughts there, Jamie, before I jump forward?
Yeah, just a couple more questions. So there was a question about what does expiry mean? Is it from the date of upload, or actually taken from the license itself? Yeah, that data would be lifted from the license to populate our system. And then Stuart adds a thought that credential features could be ideal for them to gather new employee rights to work documentation. I think, Stuart, that's a perfect use case. That's exactly, some of the ideas that we've been thinking about. So great to have you thinking the right way.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Stuart. This final screen here that I want to show on the prototype is the user's profile page. So I showed you earlier the idea of starting with the navigation of a single license and then viewing all of the participants who have submitted for that particular license. This is looking at the admin from a slightly different perspective. This is, okay, I want to see for an individual user which licenses they've uploaded and which are valid. And this can sometimes be handy where you've got an individual where you really need to dig deep on what they've uploaded to EdApp and what they've completed, particularly in settings where maybe something has gone wrong. You need to validate whether they've been trained, and that obviously you can do in EdApp Analytics. And then secondly, validate that all of their licenses are valid. So this is a really easy place to do that. Obviously, the ability to download all of those credentials as well is really key for whoever you have to give those to. Okay, well, I think that's a good jump into the prototype for credentials. Let's get on to the next topic, which is observations. Actually, before I do that, Jamie had me add this slide in just yesterday because he's super excited about Certificates 2.0. I must say that we haven't spoken about Certificates 2.0 in our promotion of this webinar, but Jamie snuck it in because he obviously sees the correlation with credentials.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think where that's coming from is what we find from a lot of our discussions with organizations, that they often seek to kind of have an academy focus where, they're not just reaching the baseline of compliance training, but they want their people to go above and beyond. And, many of our customers are industry leaders. And that's not to say that all the largest organizations in the world, but they're all forward-thinking organizations who really want to kind of leverage technology and innovation. And I think part of being associated to a company like that, a company that invests in you and is seen by your industry peers as being a great company, is the ability for you to certify your training and give your learners something professional, something that they can add to their professional bio to kind of demonstrate their investment and the training that they've received, something tangible that they can download. And yeah, like I wanted to add it in there because I really love the idea of academy programs and all the discussions I have with our customers always rotate around the same things. We want to do something fresh, interesting, engaging. We care about our people, we want to develop them, and we want to build our reputation as being a good employer in the market. And I think the new certificates capability really enables that to happen.
Awesome. Thanks for that explanation, Jamie. And just to be clear, everyone, this is separate from credentials. There is currently a version of certificates in the platform, and very simply put, you can create EdApp courseware and assign a certificate to it. And when the learner completes that content, they're given a certificate like what you see on screen. The difference with the second iteration is a really deep ability to customize that certificate and build out the relevant information on the certificate that fits your company profile and your program. I'll also note that this feature is really not far off. I wouldn't be surprised if it was launched this week or next. So again, kind of making you guys aware that we're not just talking about concepts here. These things are right around the corner.
Yeah.
Awesome. So observations is the second piece that we're talking about today, and equally as exciting as credentials. So hopefully we don't run out of time. Observations is your way to bring in-person assessments into the EdApp experience. To date, EdApp has really been solely focused on micro-learning, really highly effective digital delivery of training. But we have learned from our partners that those in-person assessments are just as critical to track. And it is important that you marry up the data of those in-person assessments with what you're doing in the realm of EdApp, in the realm of your learning management system. The visuals that we have on screen here, and we're going to talk through another prototype in a second and dig into it. But just to kind of set the stage here, the mechanic for observations is really quite cool. You've got the learner experience, which we see in the visual on the left, and the assessor experience on the right. And the whole purpose of this interaction is in the workplace, whether you're in a retail store or in a manufacturing setting, you can perform those in-person assessments and immediately connect an assessor's checklist with the learner's application in order to connect with that unique user profile. And the whole idea is that you've got a QR code on the learner device that is scanned by the assessor, which then brings up the experience in which they can go through the checklist of the assessment. Jamie, have I missed anything there?
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, well, we've had rather excitingly an anonymous attendee who's clearly chosen to keep her or his details away from us. But she or he has asked about certificates and whether they'd include a section about kind of longevity and I think recertification. I think we use that just as a teaser to say, on our next webinar, which is on the 1st of December, we're going to be talking about recertification and how all of that works in terms of sending out reminders to managers and learners. And yes, that will link to certificates. So certificates will have an expiry where training is due to expire as well. So strap in for the 1st of December, right? Like how better can you kick off the month? But I was just going to say, like, I think just going back to all the different use cases that, you know, and industry examples that we've got here, it's so easy to kind of think about how powerful observations is going to be, right? You know, if you're working in a manufacturing environment or a warehouse, you know, watching people go about their role and you know, doing things safely and, you know, aligning with ways of working. If you're in a retail environment, you know, looking at customer interactions or barista skills or anything like that. You know, if you're in the postal service, hi Sebastian, you know, actually looking at, again, you know, how effectively people do their work in sorting operations and things like that. You know, mining, I think, is one of the early use cases that we looked at where there's a huge amount of kind of observation work that sits behind it, where I think some of those kind of big vehicle drivers have got to be reviewed for 300 hours or something like that, right? There's so many different examples here. And I'm like really thrilled about this kind of this leap that we've made where we're going to start to incorporate more of this kind of observed learning to give a much deeper blend. So sorry if I've taken some of your fire away. I can see you've got a whole range of bullet points there that I just completely ignored. But yeah, like I think just great, like just so many examples here that you know that we can lean into with this observation capability.
Awesome. No, I think you've captured it perfectly there, Jamie. Let's look at the experience here. So I'm just going to play a video and start my way through it to talk about how it will all work. So again, we're back in the EdApp admin experience. Right now, we're looking at a course list, series of courses in our mock account here. Let's jump into one of them. So what we have on screen here is the course, the 2 micro lessons down below depicted in gray, and then our navigation that we see on the right-hand side. And let's go over and add an observation to our existing courseware. I think what is really important to really portray with observations, in addition to the functionality at its core as well, is the idea that observations is a feature that's linked with existing microlearning. So you may put together a course, for example, that consists of micro lessons to introduce the topic at hand. So if we're talking about sales strategies, perhaps you've got 2 micro lessons that talk about the fundamentals of sales strategies. And within those lessons, maybe you've got a few questions to assess whether the learner is understanding the principles. Maybe you throw in a game to engage them, and all of the different little bits and pieces that you can put together when it comes to EdApp microlearning. You could then make those prerequisites of the observation, not mandatory, but I think the idea that a learner maybe has some initial training in the digital realm before they jump into the in-person assessment could be a good idea. So let's click through here and click through to the observation builder. We can add a task and add some further detail here. So the idea of the observation builder is really your ability to build an assessment checklist. The options available when putting together that form will be very versatile. We understand that different industries will demand different criteria when it comes to assessments. What we show here on screen is a simple scale, 0 to 5 scale, where the assessor can grade the learner's performance against a specific task. On the right-hand side, other kind of criteria to be able to build out that form, whether it's a free text feedback on a specific task, or a multiple choice selection to say very good, good, bad, poor, for example, or just a simple yes or no, did they perform a specific task in the total flow of the assessment. So we certainly understand that that versatility is needed in order to make this feature valid for all audiences on the platform. While I'm saying that, I'll put the call to action out there. During our APAC webinar yesterday, we had a lot of feedback on this particular feature. And namely, we had organizations sending us their assessment checklists, which we've actually given to the EdApp product team to give us more awareness as to what your requirements are. So if you feel comfortable with sending us an existing checklist that you're using in this kind of particular setting, then feel free to send it over, and our teams would definitely love to see it.
Who do they send it to, Luke, if they want to send it? Is it you, is it?
Yeah, so at the don't worry, I'll take care of it. Feel free if one of the team want to put my email in the chat, you can send it to my actual email address, and then I'll forward it on to the team. And even better than that, if you wanted to actually talk to our product team directly, we can try and set that up so you can give them your feedback. So drop that in the chat, and at the end of the webinar, we'll also have a few email addresses available.
Yeah, Molly did that super quickly, so thanks, Molly.
Right on. So now we're in the learner experience, and what we've just done is navigate through the course, through the lessons to the observation. And as I described a couple of slides ago, the interaction with an observation starts with the learner. They click through and they enable the visibility of the QR code that will trigger the observation. This is a unique code, so when it's scanned, it will basically bring the assessor directly to the assessment for this learner. So this is now we're in the assessor mode. They've scanned the QR code. It brings up the basic details of the observation and all of the relevant information that an assessor might need before they kick it off. If we press resume or start the assessment here, we can then get into our assessment form. So these are the sorts of attributes or criteria that we were looking at before: scales, sliders, free text feedback, yes or no questions, for example. Let me just move this little guy over here. And then ultimately the pass fail at the end if that's part of the assessment. So this will give you the ability to fill out a very comprehensive form of feedback for your employee to determine whether they've passed the assessment or not. And then finally, the learner has given feedback. So once the assessor has completed his role in this whole process, obviously there we're sending information back to your EdApp admin account. If, for example, this assessment is being produced or undertaken by a store manager, for example, or a site manager, and then this information needs to be fired back to the safety manager to collate all of the assessments that are happening. Likewise, on the learner application, they will clearly be given feedback as to whether they passed or failed the assessment. Jamie, any feedback from the crowd here?
Yeah, lots of questions, but we're just kind of answering them as we go through. Yeah, we've had a huge amount of questions actually, but I think just generally there seems to be a lot of excitement. Lots of questions, I think, from the kind of iAuditor community about whether we can transition across existing check sheets in iAuditor into EdApp, and kind of whether that was a foundation. I think like the kind of quick answer is there. Like obviously being part of safety culture, we've adopted some of their approach. I would say we're probably not as advanced in those kind of observation capabilities as we aren't, right? We're not as advanced as iAuditor, but like we're really super keen to make this work, and obviously we want to make sure that it's very well integrated with iAuditor. So if you're in contact with safety culture reps, then please reach out to them with any checklists that you've got and you think might transfer well. There is an opportunity to still kind of help to shape exactly what observations look like. We are quite mature in the process, but like we're always open-minded. So please make sure you reach out. On the EdApp side of things, if you don't know who Safety Culture are, by the way, they're our parent company. If you just heard of EdApp, like again, just reach out to your respective reps. So, me probably in Europe, it's going to be Dan or Luke in the US, unless you kind of mid-market, and then it's going to be Jess or Bobby or Melissa. Probably, but yeah, just reach out to whoever you're in contact with. It doesn't really matter. We'll channel it to the right people, but we'd love to hear your thoughts on how you could make it work.
Awesome. Let's get on to the third topic for today: group training. Certainly, last but not least, there's so much to unpack here, but let's spend a little bit of time with group training before we wrap up the call. So group training, again, going along the lines of these themes of taking activity or training that lives outside of the digital realm and connecting it with what you're doing on EdApp. Group training is very much about that as well. It is your way to host in-person training sessions and collect the data associated with those and store them alongside your micro-learning analytics. We know that typically in-person training is delivered in a meeting room or even in a lunchroom. Stakeholders will sit around a table and maybe have a safety meeting and a discussion and talk about key topics for the week. or it might be a formal presentation that is presented on a TV screen in a meeting room, for example. Normally, these sorts of sessions can, be very closely aligned with compliance training. It is obviously important to know who is there, who has participated, so that they can be documented. And what we've heard is that this is often done with a kind of paper-based record keeping solution, which hopefully we can help you guys optimize. So let's get into some use cases for group training. As I said, on-site toolbox talks. One thing that I'll pull out here, in addition to what I just said, is that we've seen organizations facilitating group training on EdApp and combining that with other EdApp features like rapid refresh, which is all about quizzing. So the idea here is that bringing people into a room, you would, in its current format, record keep with paper or spreadsheet or whatever it is to determine who is there. But then mid session or at the end of the session, actually fire up a quiz on EdApp to test your audience's knowledge as to what they know or what they've learned from the session itself. That could be as simple as a 3-question multiple choice quiz. And it's a great way to ensure that, your audience aren't just sitting there and going off into dreamland. They're actually paying attention, and you can validate that they've understood the key topics of the day. Retail, I'll flag a kind of more casual kind of use case here. Retail, when we talk to retail partners, obviously right now, COVID is ever changing, and informing frontline workers of those changes is very important. Of course, that can be done with a push notification in EdApp or a micro lesson to talk about legislative changes. But I don't think we can ever get away from the idea of bringing people into a face-to-face setting to talk about very important updates. And typically in retail, or if you're in hospitality, COVID is obviously a very big topic. Jamie, any thoughts from the crowd on use cases for group training?
Surprisingly not. So maybe it's exactly what you alluded to. People have kind of gone off in a different direction.
Definitely not.
It could be. I think again, like this is just another extension of what we're talking about here. Toolbox Talks is a great example, right? Where you want to not only acknowledge people in the room, but you want to kind of verify their understanding. I think it's just really an extension of that kind of physical element, kind of observations, getting people together, adding a bit of testing. I think it's just really kind of taking, like I say, EdApp to another level in terms of physical interaction. So we're now kind of bridging the gap in every different way, right? We've got self-paced learning, testing and reinforcement. We've got observed training for kind of coaching and instructional delivery. And then we've got kind of group scenarios where you'll be able to kind of invite people to come together, verify attendance, verify understanding. So like if you're not excited about this, I mean, what can you get excited about? Right? It's incredible stuff, right? So we have got some questions from David here. Can you conduct group training with multiple groups simultaneously? I mean, I can't see why not, David. I guess you're maybe thinking about the profiles of people in attendance, possibly, or different virtual groups. I think, again, I think that's really good. These are the kind of questions that we want, to kind of look at. But I think with EdApp, you get to add profile data, which will mean that people are associated to different groups by proxy anyway. So you would, for example, be able to see everyone, with a particular level of leadership who is in the room, or an area of specialism, or, whatever you like. So I think, we can put, I think the answer is probably yes, but it would be just a question of figuring out, exactly how that use case is going to work. Bogdan said, we'll be able to present group training lessons remotely. It will be useful in times of lockdown and so on. You can already do that, Bogdan. We have a virtual training plugin, but yes, you will be able to do that. Lucy from the Snow Centre, who we love. If you're in the Milton Keynes area, make sure you go and visit the slopes. Says group training sounds like a great addition, linking all practical training with online stuff with a smiley face and an exclamation mark, which we love. And then Sebastian is definitely keen. That's good. Sebastian's keen, so we're going to explore some of the use cases there. So I think a lot of love is what I'm seeing here, and rightly so, because like this is a really exciting evolution in terms of our capability, and I think it's really just bridging some of those gaps that we maybe had and we got asked for regularly. So yeah, like again, as with all of the features we're talking about here, like make sure you reach out to your respective rep, talk to them about some of the use cases and ideas that you've got, and we'll work with you to figure out how to kind of leverage the value of these features, because it's going to be big, it's going to be exciting.
Awesome. Nice segue into the demo here. So let's talk through the final prototype of today, group training. So the first interaction when going from creating...
Nick, I've got to jump in and make an apology, a formal apology to Lucy, because they're in Hemel Hempstead and not Milton Keynes. So I'm sorry about that, ski fans. My bad.
Everyone in the USA, I'm sure,
is literally doesn't know what I'm talking about. Probably anyone outside of the southeast of the UK still doesn't know what we're talking about. But, it's a dry ski slope in the middle of a suburban area in the southeast.
There you go. Awesome. Let's get into the demo. So what I've shown on screen here is the sign-in sheet in EdApp for group training. So the visual on screen here is something you as an admin would activate. And like a paper-based sign-in sheet, we want to give the staff members in the room the ability to sign in and participate in the session before we go into actual presentation mode. So imagine this view on an iPad, for example, sitting on the table in the lunchroom, or potentially you're projecting it on screen to allow your audience to scan the QR code, for example, which will automatically sign them into the session and connect their profile of their phone with your admin experience so that they can register themselves in the middle here. If your audience don't have EdApp on their phone for whatever reason, they can obviously jump in and search for themselves, either by their first and last or an employee ID or whatever kind of data point that you upload to the system. Jamie's got a question.
No, I was just going to add, like, we are using QR codes here, but I mean, we can obviously give unique links. And again, just to be absolutely crystal clear, we are mobile first, because we always think about that small screen equity and delivering a fantastic experience on mobile. But everything you see here will work on PC and won't require a QR code. You can just simply use a unique link, or as Luke described there, you can go into the system and search this stuff out, right? So we're showing you the most efficient route, but like there are lots of different alternatives here. It's not about excluding people who haven't got smartphones.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also worth remarking here that group training for a lot of our customers is a way to solve a problem where you may have specific plants or job sites that cannot participate in digital learning. They cannot download an app for whatever reason. The staff aren't permitted the devices, or perhaps if you're in certain parts of the world where legislation demands that learning must be done on in a setting like this. This is where group training can also be really effective. And in this case, as Jamie suggested, the QR code is irrelevant because the learner doesn't have EdApp on their phone. So as such, the mechanic for participating in group training is to have the iPad there, and the learner can key in their own details and suggest that they have joined the session. Or you could actually have the supervisor or the facilitator of the session perform a roll call at the beginning of the session and key in everyone's information and validate that they're there. So there's many different ways to use this feature depending upon the organization structure that you have.
Yeah.
So let's keep going. So now that we've got everyone logged into the session, then we go to save the attendance, and then we're in presentation mode. So this would be the view that you present on screen for the audience. And the whole idea here is to marry up the sorts of visuals and presentations and interactions that you would deliver in a face-to-face setting, typically on a keynote or a PowerPoint, Word document, whatever kind of software you're using to complement the conversation of the day, but to actually trigger a presentation mode in EdApp that supports those messages. Obviously, those of you that are familiar with EdApp microlearning would have seen these sorts of interactions in the past. But I think that there's a really valuable takeaway here is that this sort of presentation mode will give you the ability to present the same content that you deliver in microlearning on screen for the group. So you don't need to be building microlearning in EdApp and then a PowerPoint for your group trainings that you're presenting elsewhere. You can use all of the same wonderful graphics and text descriptions that you produce for the app for your group training settings. Awesome. Anything to add there, Jamie? Any questions? We'll finish.
No, not really. I think people are just buzzing. There's lots of excitement and exclamation marks happening in the emails here and the QA in the chat. So I think generally, loving the excitement and the enthusiasm. Just again, I'm going to keep reiterating it. Just make sure you reach out to whoever you're in contact with, right? So if you're already a customer, reach out to your customer success person. If you're investigating EdApp or with iAuditor, just make sure you reach out to the right person. Share a bit about what you want to do. This is all about just making sure that we're aligned. It gives us a great opportunity to think about additional use cases that we can kind of build out around. But I think generally, it's just it's really exciting, right? Just think about all the different examples about how we're going to use this, and I'm seeing people saying this is it, this is the missing piece, and this is going to streamline things a huge amount for us. People talking about how they wanted to use games and tests in classroom environments, but didn't have a way of kind of recording that that was kind of smooth and efficient. And I'm super, I don't know if you're picking it up, but I'm super excited about where this is going to go, right? I do tend to underplay stuff sometimes. So if I seem morose.
Jamie, maybe you've become good cop. I like it.
Always a good cop. I don't know where this back. I think definitely it's me. I'm the good cop here. Awesome. We're all good cops, right? We're all good cops, and I think reach out to us. If you haven't spoken to us before as well, by the way, we're all nice people. Say hi. We love to have discussions. We love to show you all the other amazing features that are already live and working, and help you explore the platform. So if you haven't done already, reply to one of our emails or hit us up on the website, or hit live chat, and we'll be there to help you.
Awesome. I'm just looking through the Q&A here. It looks like we've answered everyone's questions, so thanks for submitting those, guys. I think that's a nice segue to talk about the next webinar on the 1st. Jamie mentioned that one of the topics of that webinar is to talk about compliance features. So automated enrollment into training, reminders for admin staff when staff need to be retrained, for example, relative dates to assign courseware with respect to when your team members join. all of that amazing stuff, as well as our PowerPoint converter iteration 2, which is absolutely awesome. So yeah, head to edapp.com/webinars and register for that one. And Jamie and I can bore you for another hour in a couple of weeks' time.
Listen, December the 1st, I might even come in an elf outfit or something like that, right? So if you didn't come for the learning technology updates, like, you know, be there for the sassy outfit that I might wear.
I'm gonna hold you to that one, Jamie.
I'm joking. I want to set expectations. That's not going to happen, everybody. But yeah, look, thanks so much, everyone, for staying on. Like, really good turnout today. Lots of great questions, some real genuine excitement about what we're doing, and rightly so. And thank you, Luke, for being such a consummate professional and a fantastic speaker. We love you.
Jamie, I'm blushing. On that note, thanks, guys. We'll see you soon.
Cheers all. Bye.
Bye-bye.